They gathered in the lawyer's office, eyes glittering with greed, waiting to claim their share of my grandmother's $46 million fortune. My cousins whispered about vacations, luxury cars, and mansions, smirking as if the money was already theirs. But when the lawyer began to read her will, their laughter faded, because Grandma had prepared a revenge so shocking and brilliantly cruel that it left the entire family in stunned silence, and only one of us walked away with everything. This story is about Adrian, a 34-year-old man who had always been treated as the black sheep of the family. Unlike his cousins, Lucas, Amelia, and Daniel, Adrian never fit into their circle of expensive hobbies, designer clothes, and social clubs. They mocked him for being ordinary, for working as a history teacher and living in a modest apartment. What they never understood was that Adrian had been the only one who truly stayed by Grandma Eleanor's side. Eleanor Hale wasn't just a grandmother. She was a legend. She had built her empire from nothing, starting as a seamstress in a small town before creating a fashion brand that became an international name. By the time she passed, her fortune was valued at $46 million. To the world, she was glamorous and admired. But behind her elegance was a woman who understood the corrosive nature of greed, and she was determined her money wouldn't destroy her family. The day of the will reading was tense. Everyone crowded into the old law office of Chester Holloway, Eleanor's trusted friend and the executor of her estate. The polished oak table gleamed under the light, but the silence was heavy with anticipation. Adrian sat quietly at the end of the table in his worn-out blazer. While Lucas adjusted his Rolex, Amelia whispered to Daniel about the villa she wanted to buy, and their mother, Aunt Victoria, impatiently tapped her nails on the table. When Chester cleared his throat, all eyes turned toward him. "To my beloved grandchildren I leave behind." He paused, letting the silence stretch. Their smirks widened. Then came the blow. "Not what you expect." Gasps filled the room. Chester's voice remained firm as he continued. "Over the years, I have watched some of you grow entitled, arrogant, and careless. I gave you opportunities, and you squandered them. I gave you kindness, and you mocked it. And so my will is not a reward for greed. It is a test of character." Adrian's cousins stiffened. Amelia scoffed. "This has to be some kind of joke." Chester ignored her and pressed on. Lucas was left $5 million, but only if he could successfully run one of Eleanor's smaller businesses for 5 years without running it into the ground. Daniel was granted $4 million in a trust, but only if he completed 1,000 hours of verifiable charity work. Amelia received $6 million, but only if she lived without luxury for a full year, budgeting her life like an average worker. The room erupted. "She can't control us from the grave!" Daniel shouted. Amelia glared at Adrian and sneered. "I bet she left you a sympathy check." But Chester adjusted his glasses and read the final line with deliberate weight. "And now, to my grandson Adrian." The room fell silent. Adrian's pulse quickened. Chester continued. "To Adrian, the only one who sat with me not for money but for love, who spent evenings reading with me when others were too busy, who never once treated me like a wallet, I leave the remainder of my estate. The $31 million balance, all properties, investments, and complete ownership of my company. Use it wisely, Adrian. You are my true heir." Shock ripped through the room. "This is insane!" Lucas shouted. Amelia's face flushed red as she accused Chester of forging the will. Daniel slammed his fist on the table, demanding it be thrown out. Aunt Victoria shrieked that Eleanor had lost her mind. But Chester remained calm, sliding the signed and notarized documents across the table. "These are your grandmother's final wishes. They are legally binding." Adrian sat frozen. $31 million? The company? He hadn't expected a cent, yet here he was, the heir to her life's work. The fallout was brutal. His cousins launched lawsuits, desperate to overturn the will. The media got hold of the scandal. Black sheep inherits fortune. Social media burned with debates about whether Adrian deserved it. Amelia refused to speak to him at gatherings. Lucas spat insults whenever they crossed paths, and Daniel spread lies online about him. But Adrian discovered that Eleanor had left him more than money. Chester handed him a stack of handwritten letters Eleanor had prepared before her death. They weren't just filled with love. They carried instructions. She wrote about rebuilding the company with integrity, avoiding greed, and honoring her legacy through acts of kindness. One letter struck him hardest. "Adrian, wealth reveals who we truly are. It can destroy or it can build. Choose to build." And he did. Over the next year, Adrian transformed not only his life, but Eleanor's company. He modernized the business, turning it into a leader in sustainable fashion. He set up scholarships in Eleanor's name for underprivileged designers. He restored the old family farmhouse and converted it into a community center. Slowly, the narrative shifted, from undeserving grandson to visionary heir carrying on a legacy. Meanwhile, his cousins crumbled under the weight of their greed. Lucas mismanaged the business Eleanor left him and bankrupted it within a year, losing everything. Daniel refused to put in the required charity hours and forfeited his inheritance. Amelia tried to fake her year without luxury, posting photos of designer vacations online, and her trust was dissolved. Adrian flourished, not because of the money, but because of the values Eleanor had instilled in him. Every time he walked through the company headquarters and saw her portrait on the wall, he whispered, "I'll make you proud, Grandma." And in the end, Eleanor's revenge wasn't cruel. It was justice. She gave her greedy children and grandchildren exactly what they deserved. Nothing without effort. And she gave Adrian the reward for something money could never buy: his loyalty, his love, and his unshakable heart.